Hello, beautiful people. How y'all doing today? Can I get a people tub today? And also, happy birthday to you, chatter. I remembered your birthday, chatter. I did. Happy birthday, chatter. It's not my birthday? Well, that wasn't talking to you. People tubbies? Sure, we can have that. Okay, business. About me, mine is in 1 month. I'll remember. I'll remember. I will remember. Mine is today. I know. That's why I wish you a happy birthday. It's true. I'm a knower. I'm a rememberer. Call me an osmentous wine drinker. Because I'm one who shares the memories. True. True! It's true! Alright. Alright. Obviously, we're gonna want channeling. Oppa!
Time to act. Cool it. Teamwork is dreamwork. Eat this. Witness the power of the wild rain. Frostbite. Freeze.
Yeah, kind of fucked up.
Light it up.
Oh, let's see. Oh well. Okay. Business. Let's go. Why do they make the abyss garbage for this cycle? I know! It's so cringe! It's such a cringe abyss! It really is! Oh. Oh yeah. Oh. Oh yeah.
Cool it. Let me leave you a verse. No, my sword.
Robots in 12-1 are cancer. I don't know. I don't mind them as much as the serpent. Just be glad they took Wolflord out of 12-3 too. Wait, was it in 12-3-2 at some point in the leagues? Oh god. Oh god, that would not have been fun. What the fuck?
This moment will be frozen in time. Rain cutter, no, my sword. Dodge this. What's the hurry?
Okay, business. Chad, I'm so hyped about Arlecchino. Surely they won't give her the Dea treatment, right? If I speak. If I speak. If I speak. Giori TC. The more I learn about her, the less I like her, man. I don't wanna. I don't wanna. Didn't you say a character that works with constructs is good? Yeah! And then I learned she has no fucking AoE. And I'm like, oh. And then I learned they, like, didn't give her dolls attack animations. They just fucking stand there and the enemies take damage. And I'm like, ew. Like, what the fuck?
I didn't know you were such a slacker.
Like, hello? I hope they've just, for the very first fucking time, sent shit to beta without it actually, without the beta things actually, like, being final. Like, the animations, right? Because it's never happened before that beta animations were, like, substantially changed. Animations are probably broken because private server. I mean, you're kind of doing a lot of work assuming that they're not also broken on the okay, what is, assuming that they're not also broken on the beta, like, I feel like if it wasn't if it was just a private server thing, leakers that have seen beta footage would be like, hey, by the way, these animations are actually different on the beta. They don't say that, though. And not be done with the animations. Well, yeah, that, like, I hope that's what it is, and it's not just that, like, they just, the animations are just the dolls staring, clueless. Yeah. How many do I need? I don't think I can get it today, right? Shit, I can get it today. No, I don't want to do more of that. Alright, chat. Any North American accounts I can forage? Copium overdose. I heckin' love Xianyun. Alright, buddy. Isn't it early in NA? It is 8:37 a.m. for me. It's 5:37 on the West Coast. Okay, let me open the interactive map. Interactive map. Okay. Sorry, buddy. +1. You can use my world POG. I'll probably need another one. Because, like, I know you can get the amount I need in one world. But, like, a lot of locations are just cringe. Why 5 on a DPS? The thing with Gumming is, like, he generates particles, not, like... He has a short skill cooldown, which means that he'll use his skill multiple times per rotation, right? But what that means is that if you kill enemies a little bit too fast, you use less skills, which means you generate less energy. And it just feels like shit. Nice. Oh. Nice. Oh. Okay. We got this part. How much ER does your Gumming have without Fav? Well, I have 179 ER, and 5 gives me 61, so I have like 118. Feel this way. Ooh. I ran out of stamina. Nice, we got 2 there. I was thinking of Sag Greatsword for higher base attack. But, like, there's no point to Sag Greatsword. Right, like, you're not proccing Sag Greatsword. You don't want to run a weapon that doesn't have a passive. That's not good. At that point, play the fucking Mega Magic Sword. Okay. I thought Fav had high base attack? No, it doesn't. But it doesn't matter that much, right? It matters less because Shenyun... At least if you're playing with Shenyun, because attack doesn't affect Shenyun stuff, right? So it matters a little bit less than other carries. Indeed. Indeed. True. You tell him, chatter. Save the 28 months, Stubbsy. Wage business. Alright. Let's go here. I think of an increase in monopyro Scalzo compared to non-C6 sucrose. It's a pretty nice increase. Am I going the right way? I feel like I'm not. I feel like it's supposed to be here. Maybe I already got it. I think I did. Cause all right. Fuck. I forgot what was the question again? I forgot. Oh yeah, it was Sucrose versus Kazuha for yeah. Oh yeah, so it's because Kazuha does a lot more personal damage in Monopyro compared to Sucrose. On top of his buff, right? If it was just the buff, it wouldn't be that huge of a deal, but the fact that he also has higher personal damage, yeah. 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 POG. Hit? Oh, okay. 24. They were the 24 months out of Sims. Okay, business. We know what to do on a dark, moonless night when he least suspects. We'll keep up behind him so hard to detect. And shove it inside of his big fucking arse. Alright. Wait, did I only get one of the two? No, I got both. Alright. Okay. Then I'll still have the ones southwest of here. Is there? Hey, we got a double. Nice. Okay. There's gonna be one like here. There's a vendor at the wharf that sells 5 more. Alright, that's good to know. I might not need a second world then. How many am I at? 36. Okay. Okay. Check the minus 15k, it's really good. I'll take a look. No. No. Don't Saj! You can't guilt me into... Fine. Fine, you can. You very much can guilt me into adding it. Fine. Hey, we got 3. Nice. Okay. Have you ever tried speedrunning? Would you be down now considering the easy first side? I mean, I've done like trying to do a chamber fast, but I've never tried proper speedrunning. I'm not really interested in it. I think it would be interesting to have speedrunning if people were competing on the same account with the same characters. But I think that speedrunning, well, when that's not the case, is not for me. Because, like, keep in mind, right? I don't buy the battle pass, and I level 90 almost all of my characters. That means I spend significantly less fucking time in artifact domains than other players. No, you have deathmatch? Yeah, I bought the battle pass when I started playing, right? I have a few battle pass weapons. I have bought the battle pass before. I haven't bought the battle pass in over 2 years. Oh, what am I doing? Obviously it's not up. It's never up. Oh my, I'm so orange. Okay, how do you get under there then? Here? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh. What the? That was... That's funny. But I don't think it is here. Is it? It's supposed? Well, this is a fucking cavern that leads nowhere. Other cave below, I see. Apparently there's another cave below. Where? Alright, well, give it up. What is this? Sure. It wasn't the cave you just accidentally grabbed when doing the challenge. Wait, what? I wasn't. What? I'm confused. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Like, how many are we at? Yeah, we could just buy the ones in the wharf. Thank you very much for lending me your world. Can you rate my Diluc build? Sure. Why? What the fuck are you doing? Do you have Xianyun? For free? Yeah, for free. You have Xianyun? No? Why are you playing Diluc then? Oh, that's a good build. All right, child. Which NPC sells them? At the docks? The docks are large, man. There's a lot of docks. Which one? North or south? I DM'd you the location. Wow. Thank you. Fucking Giga Chad chatter. Huge. I might as well buy all of them. I'll probably want this eventually. Definitely don't need those though. All right, now we need 23 curse scrolls and 6 gemstones and 2 more bosses. Off the wagon and unwell, steady, steady, oh God, Jenny, Jenny. Okay, so first, we realize that we're gonna need a lot of fucking Dust of Azoth, and we cry. Second, we realize that we're not gonna need any more curse scrolls, and we're very happy. Is that even enough? Should be, right? Okay, so I have 3 of those, 0 of those. Okay. I have 4 of these and I need 18, right? I need 14 more. Or, I guess, 42 more of these. Yeah. Use your geos first? Yeah, maybe I should have, but I don't really care. It is what it is. Okay. So now we have everything except the boss mats, so let's go back to the boss. I was wondering why you have so little. Yeah, it's because I leveled 90 everyone. And, I I hoard my primos, right? Like I'm not gonna go for a character if I don't really want them.
Everybody stand back. Nice spike. Let me lead you a verse. Know my soul. Rain out to frostbite. Let's light it up.
Which means I don't actually get that much dust. Hey, welcome, Johnny, and I'm glad it was helpful. POG. To be fair, most people won't really go for someone if they don't want them. Yeah, but like, for example, right? I kind of wanted Navia, but I didn't feel that strongly about wanting Navia. So I wished on her banner. I was a 50-50, and I was like, you know what? Nah, I'll just keep the pity for someone else. Paid chatter. True. Actual paid chatter. People don't say nice things to me. Unprompted. That's fucked up. Alright. Are there any characters you're considering on their rerun? I don't think so. No. Actually, maybe I could consider Wanderer now that I have Farazan, but I don't know. I don't think so. No, definitely not. No. Yeah. So I don't think so. When I'll Hytham, why I'll Hytham? The thing about Hytham is, like, he's good, but also his teams aren't really interesting. He just plays Spread or Hyperbloom, right? Like, that's it. He just plays Spread or Hyperbloom. The teams aren't actually that different from what I already play, so I just don't really care. Burning, I'll hide them. True. What's the best Wanderer team right now? I don't really like Wanderer Farina. Because you don't have a shield. And, like, you can run Wanderer teams without a shield. The shield isn't necessary to play Wanderer. But it feels so much worse. And I, personally, don't like it and wouldn't recommend it. Maybe when we get a healer shielder that actually heals a lot, like enough for Farina, maybe it'll be a Farina angle. But for now, I'd probably just stick to Bennett Toma or Bennett Changli or Bennett Zhongli, or I guess Bennett Lila as well. I think Bennett Lila is a little bit more scuffed. Your requirements become a lot more punishing, and the setup to actually get the cryo bonus with Lila on the team is pretty tight. and somewhat ping dependent. But yeah, so I don't like Lila as much as Toma, but it definitely is good if you're doing the setups. But yeah, basically, it'll boil down to Wanderer, Bennett, Farazan, Shielder. And the one I like the most is Toma. I have a question about Shandini. Can I use her normal attacks for swirl instead of her E? You should use her normal attacks for swirl. Her initial E, like the first cast of her E, doesn't actually swirl.
Freeze. Teamwork is dreamwork. Eat this. Booba, get Rain Cutter. Rain outlines your.
Oh, so sorry.
Everybody stand back. Nice and spiky.
Dodge this.
Losing all of your vapes because you just trigger freeze is annoying, but it is what it is. But yeah, her initial thing doesn't actually swirl, but with Shenyan, you can also just do normal attack E, and you can chain it really fast because her normal attack actually comes out really fast.
My
Right?
contraptions are calibrated.
Oops. I'm a dumbass. Did it a little bit too fast. Anyways. Wait, why am I not? I'm doing it too fast. I'm Cornge. Alright, you can end one into E pretty quickly. To get your swirl. Anyways. POG! Fully ascended.
It is through.
Is this worth it? I don't know if it is. I'm getting 23 base attack. That is not that big of a deal. But I'm tired of having to scroll down to my level 80 characters to find her when I want to play her in Abyss. So I think I'm going to do it. She shouldn't be on Witslip either. That was, yeah. For now, she'll be on this. Just favorite. Her favorite doesn't work in Abyss. For some fucking reason. Useless feature? Yep. Oh my god, I haven't done one of these in so long. That's a sabotage one.
Good eye.
Ah, fuck. Wait, does it work? It works. Oh. Alright, I forgot I'd done one with her. Bro. Alright. What's wrong? I'll take it. I don't know what she's yapping about, but I'll take it. I think I have too much crit rate. Yeah. Oh.
Astra. Thank you for completing. Add Astra.
Okay. What causes your gumming? C4 at the moment. No. I'm not adding Mao. Okay, I'm actually kind of down to see how, how this does. Why is Ultron better than Scar? They're basically the same. It doesn't matter that your ER vanishes after 10 seconds because you're not really generating particles after 10 seconds. The Jeff, you made me cry. I don't care. I'll make your dog cry without remorse. It's true. It's not true.
Dare to mess with me? Have fun. Shower me with praise. Time to shine.
Bright cloud converge.
Animal test 6308. Stand clear. Enhanced animal module 75. Ta. Yeah. Ta.
Oops.
Rest for regret. Strike a pose. Let lightning unknown.
Skyward. Seize the skies.
Animal hyperstasis emulation. Yeah.
Let me actually... I want to check something. If I do this...
Make way for the
Absorption test. Stand clear. Enhanced animal module 71.
Okay, yeah, it does work. Okay, cool. So I'd rather just... I don't want to just use all my abilities at first. I want to use them, like, in between my jumps. Okay. I guess we just do Hyper Bloom on the other side. It's kind of just... That's kind of just the reality of this abyss. Just play the fun team on the first side and play Hyper Bloom on the second side. No fun allowed. How do you keep those mechs grouped? You go in the middle of them or behind them. Just not in front.
We'll see about strike a pose. Time to shine.
Stray cloud converge.
Yeah. World Mark II. Animal test 6308. Yeah. Ta. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Dare to mess with me? Keep mining. Going song.
Skyward. Make way for the
Stand clear. Animal hypostasis simulation.
Oops. Oh, I don't have my E. Oops.
Ta.
I thought I had my E.
Yeah.
I did not.
Ta. Yeah.
Okay.
shine down. Witness the power. Here comes the test. Take it easy.
Grow, grow, grow.
Rain outlines your
Yeah, yeah. Ah, the Temple of Wisdom. Hey,
busted. Let me lead you. Those are about to get set.
yeah, this way.
Oh, he's being rude. Oopsie daisy.
There is no escape.
Community.
Body and kick. Quietly now. Torn to oblivion.
I don't think Raiden hits the blooms on Reno. She does.
Your
Fine.
journey ends.
Target practice. Embrace the storm. Where do you think you're going? Cloud converge.
Animal test 6308.
Oops.
World Mark II. Yeah.
Did I just plunge for 100k with Sucrose?
With me.
Years of the storm. Strike a pose.
Make way for the Adeptus.
I'm stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Stand clear. Ta. Not done yet. Absorption test. Dare to mess with me?
Sucrose greater than Lament? True! Should make Shen in the DPS not better. I don't think it's better. Unironically. Sucrose E and Burst do a lot of damage when you build her attack. And you get grouping, which is very, very lacking when you're playing Shenyun main DPS. Because your area is just pretty small, right?
Rain outlines your fate.
Okay. It's actually kind of crazy how useful it is to have Raiden's burst for boss mechanics. It's like she works on every one of them. Rune Serpent, you do like 2 charge attacks and it's down. We Nut, you do fucking burst 1 charge attack and it's down. And it's just, it's very funny. Right, go to this one first.
Seize the sky.
Animal test 6308. Animal hypostasis emulation. Absorption test. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, bro.
Yeah. Dare to mess with me? Truth repeats itself. Strike a pose. Let the world come on.
Strike cloud confirmed.
Animal test 6308. Swirl. Mark 2. Yeah.
This is very funny.
Shine down.
Minute.
Witness the power. Good one. Huh? No, my soul. Yours are about to get dicey. Gotcha. Take me.
Grow.
Rain cutter.
Minute.
Game's up. Fun's over. Illusion shattered.
This way, Colonel.
Rain outlines your fate. Huh?
Okay. Is Aggravate / Quicken better if I don't have Kuki, Raiden, to proc Hyperloom in Hytham teams? Honestly, without Kuki or Raiden, Hytham's just not nearly as good of a unit. But, if you had to choose between the two, I'd probably go for Spread. And cross your fingers, you get Kuki soon. I mean, obviously, like, Sucrose carry isn't good, but it is actually playable now, which is very funny. It used to feel like complete garbage because her normal... I mean, look at this shit, man. 53%? What do you mean, 53%? Huh? I need to triple crown her, though. Genuine level 1 normal attack has higher MV than Crown Sucrose. Yeah, but they both suck. Also, I don't think that's true. 206. 243. I'm pretty sure they're the same, aren't they? Yeah, they're literally the same plunge attack multiplier. Oh, you mean normal attack itself? Okay, I see, my bad. Yeah, you're right, I think. I don't think you're right, actually, but that's fine. Isn't it leveling Sucrose Silence like throwing money in garbage? I mean, it was, but now it's not anymore. Now it's like throwing money at Jeff Bezos instead of in the garbage. It won't really do much, but it isn't completely throwing it away in the garbage, you know? Speaking of Jeff Bezos, have you heard of Twitch Prime? Any primers in chat? If giving money to Jeff Bezos isn't your thing, and you are already a, thank you for the prime, Naya. Thank you for the prime, James Oak, and thank you for the prime, Mr. SM Chick. That it works. Unironically, telling people to prime does work, because most of the time, people just forget they have Prime. Like, straight up, most people who have Amazon Prime forget they have it, and forget to Prime sub. And thank you for the Prime, Ingdiak. Have you tried Kazuha Plunge with Xianyan? I have. It's alright. I don't love it, but it's not bad. Like, don't get me wrong. It's kind of like Pyro Shao. Right? It's like it's a funny thing. You know the rough percentage difference of the amount of level 90 Xianyan has over level 70? Yeah, it's about 12%. I calculated a little bit ago. 12% to her plunge buff. It's not actually 12% to the damage your plunges are doing. It's gonna be something like 5% to the amount your plunges are doing. And honestly, most of it is the attack percent ascension, not the flat attack, not the base attack increase, unironically, which is very funny. Oh, not most of it, but a good portion of it is that. Leave it the 4 months, Catherine. Appreciate the prime, poggers. Do you have any other team recommendations for Arena if I don't have Nahida and it felt clunky playing Dendro MC against it? I mean, it depends on what you have, right? But you can do Dendro MC against it. You just need to learn which attacks it stays out of the ground for longer and which attacks it doesn't. I'm sure Sevi has a video on it, right? Oh, look, Sevi plays... Right?
Hey everyone, it's Sevi. Welcome to my guide on how to beat floor.
Here's the link for you.
Now it's time for our second stall boss, the Waynut. This fight is mainly about recognizing the Waynut's attack patterns. First,
Yeah.
it
So it always starts with this one.
spawns at the center, either doing its vertical or horizontal.
Like it has. It basically does 3 attacks and then it does the good one,
Horizontal
right?
movements. During these times, you can take bot shots or set up some reactions. Second, it will re-emerge generally near your position for a quick drive-by, which you can take pot shots as well. Third, it will come up vertically
Wait. Oh yeah, it's the 3rd attack, not the 4th one. My bad.
around the side
Wait, yeah.
farthest from you, so you can generally predict its position and preemptively move there. This is where I prefer doing a lot of damage since it stays still. Fourth, it will emerge once more, which is a good time to get particles and ready your bursts. After this, it'll come
Yeah,
up.
and when it comes back up the first time, like, or after
is
this
where I prefer
attack,
doing a-
it'll come back up relatively close. So as long as you try to position your burst like Sevi does
From
here,
you-
right? Of like
If you are presently
a bit closer to the middle, right? Centered more towards the middle than towards the edge, while the Winut is still in range.
So you can generally
right?
predict its position and preemptively move there. This is where I prefer doing a lot of damage since it stays still. Fourth, it will emerge once more, which is a good time to get particles.
When it spawns again, it'll be inside of the range, so you can still keep going for the like follow up of your rotation.
And ready your bursts. After this, it'll
And
come
then
up for
after
its
that, it does the big attack.
floating state.
so you can set it up again,
When
right?
the Waynut goes into its floating state, it conjures these animal balls. As mentioned before, applying Pyro, Hydro, Electro, or Cryo to at least 2 of the balls will bring down the Waynut, or you can apply an element to the Waynut and swirl that element, which will deal splash damage, and apply the element to those balls as well. When the Waynut comes down, it will get reduced resistance to the element you brought it down with, and you have a short window to damage it while stunned. Even vulnerable, it can still feel too short, so you may have to repeat this process a couple of times.
But yeah, so you basically do that. Thank you, Sevi. Check out the video if you want to
The secrets of the
look at the rest of the
found to convey in a few
chambers.
words.
Okay, each business.
Oh, but why must the listener grow weary whenever I begin to divulge them?
I was wondering if I should run Skyward Atlas R1 or Osworn Eye R2 on Chanyon. Probably Skyward Atlas. But go ER Sands. And to the person who was asking about Skyward Atlas earlier, another reason why Osworn Eye tends to be better is because with Oathsworn Eye, if your ER requirements are really high, you can go Oathsworn Eye plus ER. With Skyward Atlas, if your ER requirements are really high, you cry. Right? That's the main reason why I overall favor Oathsworn Eye over Atlas. But like, when you can make your ER requirements work with Skyward Atlas, they're very similar, so it doesn't really matter too much. Comparable is Xiao when having Genuine and C6 Farazan to other carries. Honestly, I like him a lot more now. It's hard for me to say actually how good,
Skyward, scatter!
but he definitely is a lot better than he was.
Skyward!
I'll think about it some more. Like, his main upside is that in that team, right?
Skyward!
You have nothing that you need to reset up across waves, right? You have a setup that will work no matter what, right? You don't have to go and refresh VV. You don't have shit you need to refresh if a new enemy spawns or anything like that. And you're not restricted physically to any area, right? There's no circle impact. And having both of those things together makes it so that even if he performs a little bit worse in terms of just straight up numbers, it's gonna be really nice
Skyward!
in any actual situation, right? But yeah, I think Xiao is now a very good example of a character where to theocraft Xiao properly, you can't just look at the DPS numbers, right? Kind of like Navidad. Yeah, kind of like Navidad. Although I would argue that it's even more so the case for Xiao than for Navidad. For Navidad, you do have to reset up your VV or your whatever. Anyways, I think it might be time to move on to the NAHIDA. Nahida asks Zajef. So let me put a stream marker. Let me go to a different playlist where it's more chill. Let me swap to Nahida.
You're still.
Hello, beautiful. Wait, no. I'm pretty sure there was some noise. Wait. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome. Hi. To Ask Zajef Nahida edition. So, for the past, like, I don't know when Ask Zajef character edition started. Like, year and a half, 2 years, I don't know exactly. But for the past while, I've done Ask Zajef.
You're not sure what to do next. Yeah.
I've done Ask Zajefs by posting on YouTube community post section and gathering questions there and answering them on stream. But one thing I've noticed is that when I do that, I end up answering a lot of the questions kind of along the way. Because some questions like lead into one another, right? And it ends up to the videos often having parts that are relatively repetitive. And to avoid that, I've decided that instead of gathering questions in advance, I'll just have people ask questions directly live. Speaking of which, don't include this, but I'm gonna go make a community post real quick that say I'm doing Ask Zajef live.
Something on your mind again? Let's work through it.
Recording
Heads are
Ask Zajef Nahida live today. Come ask your questions. Wait, no. Recording Ask Zajef Nahida live today. I'll be taking questions from live stream chat only this time. So come ask your questions. And then okay. But yeah, so with that said, we can get right into the questions. If I'm building Crit Nahida for on-field, is 574 EM a good amount to have, or is it better to go full EM? I'm running R5 with Sith. Okay, so let me... If you're building Crit Nahida for on-field, it's either you're doing on-field Nahida in a Quicken team, or you're doing a Hyper Bloom team. It kind of matters which one you do, but honestly not that much. For the overall conclusion.
May knowledge guide
you. Jesus. As a general rule, especially when you're running Witsith, right? You have there's going to be the option that you get the 480 EM from Witsith. And that makes it so that you will overcap this passive, the passive that gives you damage percent and crit rate based on your EM, potentially very, very easily. And any elemental mastery past this isn't nearly as good. Like, yes, she does scale with EM, but she's a dual scaler with attack and EM, and without the EM double dipping, thanks to this passive, EM on her just isn't that great. On top of that, you can have the elemental mastery from your Ascension 1. The reality is that, especially with Widsith, it's a bit cringe to build for her, because if you build for your damage with the EM from Widsith, you want to build less EM. But if you get any other buff, you're doing less damage. I think that somewhere around that 500, 600 mark is pretty good, honestly. Personally, I just ignore the EM buff from Widsith and just be like, okay, we'll just build for if we don't get the EM buff. Maybe not strictly if we don't get the EM buff, but like, I wouldn't intentionally keep myself under 520 EM just for this, at the very least, right? Because especially, right, if you're running an animal unit in your team that's going to be running full EM, then this is going to be basically 250 EM. 250 EM from this. 480 EM from this. That leaves you can only build 270 EM, right? And she ascends with EM, so that's 115. You get 187 from your sands, you already have more than that, right? To me, that's not a realistic way to really build her. And so I just, again, right, build as if you don't get this, and maybe don't like necessarily try to reach that exactly 1000, and you'll be good. I think that's the best way to go about it. What main stats on Nahida if she's the driver on a Quicken team, or is it just EM, EM, EM always? Okay, so when you're using her as a driver, you're gonna get a lot more damage from her normal attacks and charge attacks, right? Versus only from her E. And her normal and charge attacks do not deal damage based on her EM. Now you are getting spread procs with her, but once you start getting a decently high amount of EM, because spread also procs from crit and from damage percent, then it makes it so that you don't even want to build EM for the spread over crit, right? Especially because your EM isn't helping you, isn't giving you damage percent and crit rate to your normal attacks, it's only to your elemental skill. What that means is that when you're on-fielding her, it makes the optimal build lean more towards EM crit, or EM damage crit, than triple EM. But honestly, because her normal attacks are just not doing that insanely high of a... Or like, her normal attacks damage isn't that insanely high, it's not going to be that huge of a deal if you're not on EM damage crit. And if you have a triple EM with like actually significantly better stats, then you can just stick to that. Personally, I have her on triple EM and her build doesn't really change. I don't think that the increase... I don't actually know if this is the right build though. Looks fine. That's not the right one. Whatever. But the slight increase from getting better main stats, in my opinion, isn't worth changing her build around and gearing for 5 minutes every time I want to play her. But honestly, I think that the main thing you should focus on is the substats and getting a good crit ratio. Right? If you're at fucking 15% crit rate, 170% crit damage, there's something wrong. And maybe you should run a crit circlet. But yeah. How does C1 Nahida work, and is it worth it? I want to go for it, but I don't know if it's really worth it. So effectively, what C1 Nahida does is it makes it so that no matter what, your burst will always give you at least the 0.4 second trigger interval increase, the 5.35 duration extension, and the 23% damage bonus. It's a little bit more than that when you actually have it fully leveled up, but about that, right? And then, if you also have Electro, Pyro, and Hydro characters, you can get an additional stacks and get 2 more easily. Practically, though, the teams where Nahida, or where people tend to use Nahida the most are Hyperbloom and Quicken teams, which means that you're very often already getting at least 1 stack of Electro. The biggest increase from any of these, by far, is the first stack of Electro. Right? The trigger interval decrease is very good. Assuming you can actually trigger it faster if the trigger interval is decreased, but you generally will be able to. What that means is that when you are playing her in those Hyperbloom and Quicken teams, her C1 doesn't do quite as much. Now, is it doing nothing? No. It's still doing something. In the Hyperbloom teams, you're often not running 2 Electro units, so you're still getting a 0.22-ish at level 10. Trigger interval decrease, which is still useful. And on top of that, you're getting a little bit more damage on her E from the Pyro one. Nahida C1 isn't useless, and I don't want you to take away from this that it's useless, but it isn't that insane. One thing that I've noticed personally playing a lot of Nahida is, especially in Hyperbloom teams, when you're not on-fielding your Hyperbloom trigger, often using her burst isn't necessarily a DPS loss, but it's kind of not really a significant change to your DPS. And I personally preferred keeping my burst for iframes or for when the bosses are in phases where I can't hit them. I like when the Weenut's in the ground or the Rune Serpent. This Abyss, I've actually used the Nahida's burst. Oh, I think in like, what, 4 days of this Abyss being out or something? Yeah, in 4 days of this Abyss being out, I've used Nahida's burst more than I've used it in all of the previous Abyss cycle. But yeah, that's something that can go into how much value this has, right? If you're not using your burst, it doesn't do anything, obviously. That being said, though, the teams where you don't really care about using her burst, it's basically just like double Hydro Hyperbloom. In almost every other team, her burst is very, very relevant to use. And it's not even useless to use in double Hydro Hyperloom. It's just that it takes a very long time to use your burst because it's a very long animation. So the damage that you get is more or less cancelled out by the damage that you lose from not attacking them for its duration. Anyways, overall, her C1 is kind of just whatever. If you care about Nahida teams, I don't think this is a particularly big deal. If you get it, you get it. That's cool. I don't think it's all that worth just going straight for it, though. Yeah, that's fair. I just saw a comment in chat. Her C1 does do a bit more for Nilo teams. That is fair. Because in Nilo teams, you can't get the Electro Trigger Interval decrease, so it is nice for Nilo teams. And it also just does more in any team that doesn't run Electro, any of the Burgeon teams. I like playing Burgeon a lot. I know that Burgeon isn't a particularly popular archetype, but I have a lot of fun with it. And it's not bad at all. It's just more restrictive. But anyways. How big of an upgrade is she for Alhaitham teams? It'll depend on which Alhaitham teams, but it boils down to the fact that she is, one, really good at generating Dendro energy, which Alhaitham doesn't, like, Alhaitham doesn't insanely care about the energy, right? He has ways of getting around and doing actually outputting DPS even if his burst isn't up. But that doesn't mean you don't want his burst to be up, right? So it's a useful thing. It does a lot of damage, and this EM buff matters a lot more for Alhaitham than it does for a lot of other units. Because again, Alhaitham, just like Nahida with her A4, he scales with EM in more ways than one. Right? He has a direct EM scaling on his E, and he has a passive that gives him damage percent based on his EM, right? And then on top of that, you also have the spread. But point being, the EM on him is nice, and because he doesn't ascend with EM, unlike Nahida, right? He ascends with Dendro damage. I wasn't sure if it was Dendro damage or crit, but he ascends with Dendro damage, and because he doesn't have a way to increase his own EM like Nahida does if you on-field her. And finally, because his passive isn't quite as good as Nahida's passive, in a lot of situations, you end up with just not that much EM on your Alhaitham, and you end up being relatively far from actually capping this, right? You're not actually capping this passive just from his build alone, right? Which means that in basically every Nahida team, or sorry, in basically every Alhaitham team, getting Nahida's 250 EM will just straight up increase your stuff. Thank you for the raid, Ariel. We're currently recording a video answering questions about Nahida. Basically every team where you use him, the 250 EM from Nahida will also give you basically 25% damage. Have a good stream, thank you. So what this means is you just end up with a lot of things that help. And then on top of that, the fact that Nahida can run Deepwood and not feel bad about it. You end up with a lot of things that increase Alhaitham's effectiveness when you're playing him with Nahida. Does that mean that you can't play him without Nahida? No, it doesn't, right? At the end of the day, you can always just play Alhaitham in like a Hyperloom team without Nahida, and he'll still be fine. But he doesn't do... When you're using him in those teams without Nahida, he's often just a downgrade to her. Because, as it turns out, when you're playing Hyperloom teams, if your form of Dendro application is only on field, it means that whenever you're going off field, you stop applying Dendro, and you're losing all of those Hyperlooms that you could get during your setup, right? And so generally, Nahida is a pretty nice unit to have with Alhaitham. And if you're an Alhaitham main and you like using him, Nahida will be kind of nice for you. How valuable is Nahida compared to Farina, assuming one already has Alhaitham? That's an interesting question. And I think, again, it really boils down to the teams you want to play. The reality is that there's a lot of teams that are more than good enough to clear. And it kind of just reaches the point where you should pull for whichever unit helps you improve the teams that you want to play, right? So if what you want to play is, I don't know, a Bennett carry team, for example, Nahida's not doing shit for that. If what you want to play is, I don't know, Toma? Then, well, Farina's not gonna help you play him very much, right? Whereas Nahida will. I will say, like, with Alhaitham, like, you don't need Nahida, or Nahida isn't necessarily always in Alhaitham's best teams. You can also use Alhaitham Baiju teams if you're also running Farina. I don't like it as much, but it is something that is very playable and like it's good. Like when I say that I don't like something as much, it's not always just because it's bad. If it's because it's bad, I'll say it. Right? I don't like it as much because I feel like it's a bit more of a waste of your units, but it's not bad. Specifically for Alhaitham, I think I'd prefer going for Nahida. But honestly, you can justify either of them. But yeah, for other carries in general, it's kind of just whichever one works better for that specific carry. And if you don't have a specific carry in mind, personally, I think that Nahida is just overall a lot more versatile, enables a lot more different things than Farina does. So I would personally lean towards Nahida over Farina, but yeah. But that doesn't mean that Nahida is always going to be better for your account than Farina can be. How are Farina teams with Nahida? Is Prototype Amber enough or needed if you have Kuki? Okay, that's an interesting question. Kuki is generally not really enough healing for Farina teams. Now, she is enough healing that you will still get stacks, but you won't get as many stacks, and more importantly, after a few rotations, Farina's damage will significantly decrease because the rest of your team will spend a decent portion of the time under 50% HP. Or at 50% HP. What you can do to remedy that is add another source of healing. And you can do that by adding another healer, or you can use Prototype Amber. And using Prototype Amber paired with Kuki's healing and Farina's Ascension passive that heals the rest of your team when you heal your on-fielder over full HP. All of those things together will generally be enough to sustain your team and at least get good uptime. Maybe not necessarily full uptime, because like especially if you start actually getting hit, Cookie's healing, well, isn't the best. And so it may not necessarily be enough for full uptime, but at least good uptime And yeah, Prototype Ember does potentially help with that a lot. Does that mean that you necessarily want to run Proto Ember? Well, the reality is that Proto Ember isn't a very good weapon on Nahida outside of that. So it's like, it's really just like... I do think that it tends to be better than the other options when that's the case. But, yeah. Could you rate how much of an upgrade she generally is over other Dendro units and the common Dendro archetypes? Sure, I guess. If we're looking at the common Dendro archetypes, we have Hyper Bloom, but the Hyper Bloom is going to be separated in a lot of different like subcategories, right? You're going to have just straight up double Hydro Hyper Bloom. You're gonna have on-field Electro, Hyper Bloom, on-field Electro, Quick Bloom, on-field, I guess. Yeah, on-field Dendro, Quick Bloom, on-field Dendro, Hyper Bloom. Then we got some Burgeon stuff, so you have traditional Burgeon, you have Curry, Electro Burgeon, you have Oven, Cryo Burgeon. I guess you also have Hyper Fridge. You have Bain-Marie, Cryo Burgeon, but cooler. You have Nilo, yeah. You have... I'm not going to include Sote because I don't think Sote is actually real. Like, it's funny, but it's not a real team. You have the Quicken team, so you have Aggravate, you have Spread, and then you also have like Burn Melt teams. I think that's it for the teams that are actually worth mentioning in a serious meta conversation. The other ones are funny, but they're not very good. Okay, in Double Hydro Hyper Bloom, I think that she is a generally... She's an alright increase. I don't think she's that insanely significant. I think specifically Double Hydro Hyper Bloom, due to its ability to on-field Yelan, and to effectively significantly reduce your ER requirements on her by just spending more time on field with her. You don't actually lose that much from running Dendro MC instead of Nahida. That being said, you do become more circle impacted, which can be a huge pain in the ass, and which is one of the biggest strengths of Double Hydro Hyper Bloom, is that you, like, when you're using it with Nahida, you're not restricted to rotations. You're not restricted to any. You can just fucking mash your keyboard. She's a lot easier to play. In terms of how fast it will clear, I don't think it's actually that big of an increase. But in terms of how chill it is to play, it is a pretty nice increase. On-field Electro Hyper Bloom. So this is when you're running something like Sino with double Hydro, or I mean any of those characters with double Hydro in general. I think that it can be good, but I think that the main like potential downside / issue is that it can be hard to just fit a healer, which is part of why the on-field Electro Hyper Bloom teams tend to be a bit worse, right? You can do it with Dory, something like C6 Dory, Nahida, Farina, Xingqiu, and that is actually pretty good. Outside of Dory, it's really hard to fit a healer, so the teams just don't tend to be all that great, in my opinion. And yeah, I did just say that Dory is the best character for this team. I'm not taking that. I stand by that. C6 Dory is actually a good unit. Anything else Dory is complete dog shit. But C6 Dory's ability to consolidate healer role and carry role with Farina is now actually pretty good. You can either play her for Hyper Bloom or for Quick Bloom. So either like double Hydro or double Dendro or double Electro. Or sorry, yeah, double Electro. But yeah. And yeah, another part of the upsides of Dory is that you get to run Nahida because you don't need to run a healer. So obviously if you're playing Dory, Nahida will be a pretty big deal. On-field Electro Quick Bloom. So this is when you're doing something like, I mean, especially the Farina teams, right? I think that just on-field Electro in general, pre-Farina, wasn't that great and is a lot better now. Because you get to run an Electro unit and then Baiju or Yao Yao, and then Nahida, and then Farina, right? But I think that it's relatively reliant on having Farina. I think if you don't have Farina, those teams just don't tend to be all that great in general. But if you do have Farina, having Nahida instead of something like Dendro MC or another Electro unit will generally be pretty good. Although there are some Electro units that situationally can be good, I do think that in these teams she's a relatively nice increase. On-field Dendro Quick Bloom. So this is when you're playing something like Alhaitham or Tichnari with one Hydro unit. And yeah, in those teams, you almost always use Kuki as your healer. Well, that's not true. You use Kuki as your healer with Alhaitham. You don't generally actually do that with Tichnari because you don't really want to have to stay melee range. I've found that with Tichnari, I prefer having the second Dendro unit be the healer. And so for Tichnari, I actually don't like her too much. Whereas for Alhaitham, I think she's quite good. On-field Dendro Hyper Bloom. It's kind of just the same thing, but you're running Xingqiu. Honestly, these two, it's basically just which Hydro unit you're running the difference. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I think she's also pretty good for this. But you very, very well could just group these two as one thing. Hyper Fridge. So this is, I guess I should. Hyper Bloom. Cryo Hyper Bloom. I think that in Hyper Fridge, she's a bit less useful than in other teams, because mainly one of the upsides of Hyper Fridge one of the main, well, it's not the biggest upside of it, but one of the upsides of Hyper Fridge is that you can use the Fridge mechanic, which effectively, when the enemy has a Cryo Aura and you apply a Cryo and a Dendro Aura, and you apply Hydro to them, it will consume less of the Dendro Aura to create your bloom. In other words, you can use the Cryo to preserve your Dendro Aura for longer, like you use Fridges to preserve lettuce for longer, right? That mechanic doesn't do shit for Nahida because you have too much Dendro to actually use all of it anyways, right? Because of that, it means that other units that can make use of this mechanic gain from the mechanic, and it closes the gap between them and Nahida. Which means that overall, you just gain a little bit less from Nahida in these teams. She's still good in these teams, she's still the best Dendro option in these teams, but I'd say that it's by a little bit smaller of a margin. Traditional version, this is just a double Hydro version, generally with either Toma or Bennett as the trigger. I think in these teams she's pretty good. You can also use Baiju as the Dendro unit. Lets you get away with Toma without having to worry about healing because Baiju's going to give you that. So I do think that there is the option for that, and if that's what you're doing, then obviously she's not going to do much. But if you're not using Baiju, then she can be pretty nice. Jesus. Curry Electro Burgeon. So this is making use of the aura mechanics of Electro Charge to effectively cheat out more. Well, sorry. It's making use of both the aura mechanics of Electro Charge and Burning to cheat out more Bloom Seeds. And to reduce burning uptime in your Burgeon team, on top of letting your Pyro unit trigger overloads. In those teams, at the end of the day, you are just getting a lot more Dendro up with her, and it matters a lot more in the Burgeon teams in general, because you need to apply more Dendro, because burning is going to try to remove the Dendro, right? That's what burning does. You burn the wood. You fucking when you start a fire, there's wood, and when you finish the fire, there's no wood. No more Dendro. That's what burning does. Is it grinds away at the Dendro aura, and so having more Dendro can be very useful for it. That being said, Curry can struggle to fit in a healer, and because of that, you can also just use on-field Baiju or use Yao Yao as your healer for the team. And if that's what you're doing, then Nahida wouldn't help you. Oven, Cryo Burgeon. Honestly, I don't even know if this should be included. Probably. Similar to Curry, it's pretty useful. Bain-Marie, which is for Risley, right? Basically only for Risley. And she's not actually good in this team because you need a healer and the only slot where you can use a healer if you're using Farina and a Burgeon trigger like Toma is a Dendro slot, so you can't get away with her, and Proto Ember just doesn't do enough. Unless you're also running Proto Ember on your Risley, but at that point, what are you doing with your life? And Nilo teams, this is probably the team where she's the biggest increase. Nilo teams without her just tend to feel fucking terrible, unless the enemies spawn very close together and there's a lot of them. And even then, it'll still feel better with her. Overall, I think that Nilo teams are the ones that rely the most on Nahida out of these teams. But they are very good with her. Aggravate is very interesting. As a general rule, Aggravate likes running Nahida. But, like many of the other archetypes, Aggravate can struggle to fit in a healer, because you generally want to have your... when I'm saying Aggravate, I'm talking about Quicken teams that focus mostly on the Electro, right? So that's generally double Electro. You're going to want an Electro carry, you're going to want Fischl, you're going to want a Dendro unit, you're going to want an Animo unit, and you're going to want a healer. So that's 5, so you need to consolidate some of those roles. You cannot consolidate healer and Fischl. That's not happening. Fischl's not a healer, unfortunately. So if Fischl's slot is the one you're replacing for a healer, you are going to lose damage. Can you replace the healer, the carry slot for a healer? Technically you can. You can do either Dory or honestly just Kuki in that slot, and it works. You can replace the Animo slot, but you will lose grouping and damage, and that's generally not worth it in my opinion. And then finally, you can replace the Dendro slot. I think that the most viable ways of going about it are generally either replacing the carry for a healer or replacing the Dendro for a healer. And because of that, because one of those options is to replace your Dendro unit for a healer, well, if you want to run a healer and Aggravate, Nahida won't be that big of an increase for you. There's also the issue where you have to do more, you have to do specific setups if you want to swirl your Electro with Nahida. And if you're not doing them, you're gonna fucking swirl Dendro, which isn't real. It doesn't, yeah. So that's not gonna feel great, but yeah. Oh yeah, anyways. Next up, spread. Now, when you're looking at Quicken teams that focus around the Dendro, it matters less. Or your roles aren't as, your team slots aren't as competitive, because you don't need to run an Animo unit. Animo gives you grouping in those spread teams, but it doesn't increase your Dendro damage. And so you can get away with not running an Animo unit a lot more easily. It doesn't feel as bad. So, generally, if you're playing a spread carry team, you're going to have your Dendro carry, you're going to have any Electro unit that can actually proc the Quicken, and then the rest is kind of just up to you, right? You generally want to have a defensive unit, either healer or shielder, but that can be the Electro unit because of Kuki. Which means that the other two slots are very, very... like, you can kind of just decide whichever slots, or whichever units go in there. Which means that you will generally just want the units that do the most for the team. And as it turns out, that is Nahida, basically always. And so in spread teams, I'd say that she is a pretty big upgrade over other alternatives. And then finally, Burn Melt doesn't exist without Nahida. It's just a joke. So technically, yeah, Burn Melt cares about having Nahida a lot as well. But yeah, hopefully that answered that question. Is it better to run Nahida on Golden Troop / Gilded Dreams over Deepwood if there's someone who could hold Deepwood, or is it somewhat similar enough that the change is not necessary? So, her personal damage... okay, assuming that you're playing her in a team where you're not playing Hyperbloom or Burgeon, so you don't need Deepwood, and she's the only Dendro unit, so she's the only form of Dendro damage. She does similar damage with Deepwood as she does with Gilded Dreams, right? because you get the res shred with Deepwood, but you get significantly more stats with Gilded Dreams or Golden True, right? They're relatively similar. If you have a unit that can hold the Deepwood, it can be nice for them to hold the Deepwood if no other thing, like if they don't have another set they need to be holding. So you definitely can get away with, like, for example, you can use Deepwood Cookie. That's something you can do, yeah. Although generally, you don't really want to use Deepwood Cookie if you're playing Hyperbloom, because you'd rather have her on Gilded and NAHIDA on Deepwood. And you don't really want to use Deepwood Cookie in, like, Quicken teams either, because you're either playing an Aggravate team where you're, like, swirling Electro and you'd rather build her for damage, or you can use Instructor on her when you're playing a spread team. So, generally, like, theoretically, yes, you can just put Deepwood on someone else, but very often there's no one else that can hold the Deepwood where it's actually an increase to the team DPS. And then there's also the fact that other units generally don't have uptime that's as good as NAHIDA. So you might lose some uptime on your Deepwood. If you're running NAHIDA off-field on Deepwood, is it better to prioritize reaching 900 to 1000 EM over having a Dendro damage bonus goblet? Honestly, it kind of doesn't matter. Her output is very, very similar on triple EM to EM Dendro crit. I just focus on get the right set and get as good substats as you can. Obviously, don't use a fucking Pyro Goblet, but, like, between a crit and EM Circlet, or between a Dendro and EM Goblet, whichever one has the better substats will generally just be the better one. And if you want a more precise answer, you'll have to use the Optimizer. Is it worth going for more than 800 EM for on-field NAHIDA? More stats is always more good, right? So, if you can get more EM for free, is it good? Yeah, it's always good. More stats is more good. But is it something that you should prioritize over other stats? Not really, no. Also, when you're playing on-field NAHIDA, that's very, very often because you're playing Hyperbloom, and your Hyperbloom unit wants to build full EM, and often they're going to be over 1000, so that it wouldn't actually be 800, it would be 750. But, yeah. Can you show your NAHIDA? Yeah, I don't think she's actually on the build she's supposed to be on right now. Yeah, definitely not that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this I don't think this is the actual build I usually use her on. Like, this isn't the right... I usually use this one, but I've been playing a lot of different teams lately with Xianyun, and I've used this for a two-piece for plunge attacks. So, but yeah, these are it. Yeah, like this, for example, is the wrong one, I think. Yeah, it's just... The other circlets that I would want to use on her are stuck on other characters, so... Yeah, it is what it is. 17% HP it is. I'm not going back to Deepwood, though. I have too many things I need to do. Can Instructor on another different Dendro character be competitive with Nahida's EM buffs? I'm not sure I understand the question. Instructor gives you 120 EM, which is half of what Nahida gives. And then on top of that, forces you to use a 4-star set instead of a 5-star set, which will make your Dendro unit do a lot less. So no, it isn't. And then Nahida actually does damage and the other Dendro units kind of don't. When you're playing them like as supports, like as all fielders. Like, yeah, I'll hide them does damage, but you know that's not what I mean. Anyways. Is Nahida still in your top 3 5-stars like last Ask ZAJEF? I think so, yeah. Who are the other 2? Back then it was Kazuha Yelan, I believe. Now, I don't know if that's changed. I think Nahida and Kazuha are definitely still there. I think there's an argument to be made for Farina, or even, honestly, for Neuvillette instead of Yelan. I think that the gap between the first 2 and the others is pretty big, though. So... Oh, I'll hype him now. He's good, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't have him there. For on-field Nahida with Farina, is Baiju or double Electro Cookie a better option? I don't know, honestly. I'm not sure. I kind of struggle to visualize a good team for Nahida Farina with on-field Nahida. Like, I struggle to think of a team where you wouldn't rather just off-field Nahida and on-field someone else with Farina. In Nahida, Nilo, Singto, Yao Yao. Nahida, Nilo, Singto, Yao Yao. Who's triggering the blooms? Generally, it's going to be Singto. But Singto's app is, like, weird. So, or, Singto's app is consistently inconsistent in the sense that you will always be applying Hydro, but it can be 1 instance of Hydro or 3 instances of Hydro, depending on where it lines up in your rotation. Which means that there are times where Nahida will be triggering some of the blooms, unless you're like on-fielding her and like making sure that you just always keep that aura. Nahida can have some bloom ownership, but generally it will be Nilo and Singto. Yeah, like, Singto stuff, it's not random, it's just... yeah. Should you build EM on everyone in Nilo? This is not an Ask ZAJEF Nilo edition. Stop asking Nilo questions. But I'll answer this one. Just move on after that. Should you build full EM on everyone in Nilo teams? Yes and no. Generally, in Nilo teams, what you want is you want to trigger the reaction. You want to trigger Bloom with your Hydro units. So you kind of want to have your Hydro units on EM. But also, some units just do more damage with their talents than they do with Blooms, even in Nilo teams. And so, especially if you want to be able to deal with single target scenarios more, or better, where talent damage, or Nilo's damage can get divided by 2, basically. Or Nilo's damage can be significantly reduced, and your talent damage will be the same. In those situations, then maybe it's not worth building EM on your Hydro units. And then your Dendro units, well, Nahida builds EM whether she triggers the reactions or not. And other Dendro units are like, what, fucking Yao Yao? Like, she's not doing any damage no matter what, right? And so, effectively, if you build EM on every character in a Nilo team, you'll be fine, but it won't really be the optimal way to build. Like, technically, you want to have Nahida on her normal build, which has some EM, but also cares about crit. You want to have your Hydro unit generally on full EM with some exceptions, and you want to have other Dendro units on whatever build they should be on. But yeah, you can check out Jamie's guide. Yeah, thank you for sending it, Visas. Is Sacrificial Jade good on her, or is it cope? If it's good, is it worth upgrading it to R5? So, the main thing about Sacrificial Jade is that she doesn't care about the HP, right? So, effectively, it's a crit stat stick that gives you 40 EM. 40 is not a lot, right? It's a fine option. It's better than Solar Pearl. It's not worth buying the Battle Pass for. But it is definitely one of her viable 4-star weapons, yeah. Do you think full EM for the benefits of Nahida's burst is better in aggravate teams compared to tri-purification spread? In aggravate teams, like actual electro-focused aggravate teams, you're running an Animo unit that's built full EM, so you don't need to build 80 more billion EM on Nahida specifically for this, right? You still just want to focus on her damage. Nahida should not be the unit with the most EM on your aggravate team. Your Animo unit should be. What if spread? In spread teams, then yeah, you do tend to want to care a little bit more about the EM on her. Does her weapon change how you build her? I'm not giving her 5 because I think she never needs the extra ER with my current build. I mean, yes and no. The reason why she's on 5 isn't because she needs the ER. Like I've said this before. I very rarely actually use her burst, right? She's generally on 5 because she needs to be on 5 in some teams. And I hate having to change my builds when I play different teams. And if I play her in the teams where she doesn't need 5, I just, oh no, generates too much energy. Whatever shall I do? Right? If I want a build that works in every team, I have to use 5. Right? That's the main reason why my Nahida is always on 5. She doesn't always need 5. 5 is always useful in the sense that these energy particles help the rest of your team's ER. And her portion of the damage in the team is never that insanely high, so sacrificing personal damage isn't that huge of a deal. Even in the cases where it is a relatively big deal, it's not like, oh no, game changing. That's why I'm very okay with having Fav basically all the time. But yeah, like it really matters, especially in teams where you use a different on-fielder that cares about energy. Or, I mean, in the double Hydro Hyperbloom team, when you're actually on-fielding her, you can get multiple Fav procs, and it helps so much with your ER requirements. And I don't actually on-field her, like, you know when you have a light switch and you like put it in the middle and it's like it's like just at the moment where like it switches on versus off, and like with just a like mini movement the light goes on and off, and then it just starts like flickering. That is the state of on or off field that my Nahida is, right? She's like kind of on field. But I spend a decent amount of time on Yelan because she has longer range to hit enemies, and because I can use her E to catch up to the Weena when it decides to do cringe shit. Yeah, it's very quick swappy. I want to make sure I use Yelan's E every 10 seconds. And because of that, right, I end up going on field on her every 6 seconds, so I can get 3 Fav procs per rotation. But I don't actually focus on her damage as much because I am swapping a decent amount. And therefore, I wouldn't get that much value out of the weapons that increase her damage. So I really like Fav Codex in that specific team, but yeah. There's also just the fact that it's something I've mentioned a lot, but running more ER than you need is always nice for either when the enemies decide to stall and you can't generate particles because they're stalling, or if you kill enemies in the middle of a rotation, you can get your energy for your next rotation on the next chambers a lot more easily. Actually going overboard on ER is something that makes high investment accounts feel better to play. And so that's part of the reason why my Nahida is basically always on Fav. But yeah. Okay. Is it possible to build Nahida, Raiden, Quicken? Oh, very much so, yes. Raiden can be used in Quicken teams, just like any other Electro carry. If anything, I like Raiden better in Quicken teams than a unit like Sino. Alright, I feel like I'm seeing questions start to repeat themselves a lot. So we're probably going to be winding down soon. Is the 4 Archon Hyperloon team a good team with Nahida as on-fielder, or is it co-funny stuff? It's called funny stuff, but it's also good enough to clear.
The world remains constant over this.
What about Nahida Plunge?
Human life is like
No.
a dew at dawn, or a bubble
It's not very
in
good.
water.
I would not recommend it. I mean, fuck, it'll work. Because any character works with plunges now, but it's not gonna be good. Just be ready for that. I just cleared Abyss with Chi-Chi Plunge. Honestly, I need someone with leveled up Child normal attacks to clear it with Child Plunge. Like Child, Farina, Xianya, and Mika. Or something. Or Bennett, I don't know. I don't know which one would actually be better. I need someone to fucking do that shit right now. Alright, I believe that's it. I don't think there's any, like, actual significantly different questions anymore. So, as like an ending conclusion, I can talk a little bit about the questions that were the ones at the beginning of every Ask the Jeff when we just took questions. So overall, what is her place in the meta? Nahida's a good unit. She's just she's one of the better 5 stars. You definitely don't need her because there's no unit in particular that you need. You can clear with 4 stars only, and then on top of that, if you are actually a free-to-play player, you're not going to be 4 stars only. You're going to have a few 5 stars.
Inactivity serves no purpose
And
whatsoever.
as long as you're not going for the ones that are just straight up horrendous, you definitely, like, you can get away with basically any of them. So you don't need to go for the best 5 stars. But if that's something you care about, she is definitely one of the better ones. She's pretty versatile. She enables a lot of Dendro teams, which is nice. And, yeah. And I don't think that she's going away anytime soon. I think that... I mean, it's something I've mentioned a few times. I think that her design is kind of bad in the sense that... I feel like they gave her too much. Because she has both really good application in a large AoE and good damage. And I feel like it restricts designs for future Dendro units because you kind of can't make an off-field Dendro anymore without them just being Nahida but bad.
All the world holds dear.
Because they either have a worse Dendro app and they're Nahida but bad, or they have worse damage and they're Nahida but bad.
And unchanging.
Or they have better of those things and, like, what the fuck are they doing? But yeah, because of that, I really don't expect them to make a unit that's just all that similar to Nahida anytime soon. I think they're gonna stick to making Dendro carries and Dendro, like, defensive options. Hey, maybe I'll be proven wrong. To some extent, I kind of hope so, because I really want to see some more interesting kits for off-field Dendro. I think it's often very fun. It lets you come up with some cool shit. Dendro has a lot of nutritional value. You know, you can cook a lot of stuff with it. But yeah, overall, her place in the meta is very similar to what it was when she was released, and I don't think it's changing anytime soon. But yeah, so that's gonna be that. I hope you guys enjoyed this slightly different format. Let me know what you think of the different format. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, YouTube. Okay. Now, I really want to try it, man. I really fucking want to try it. Oh, I can use Oh, but it doesn't... Okay, no, it doesn't work on... Okay, it's fine. It's fine. If I build physical damage, I can get my procs from Skyward Harp and they get their damage increased. Isn't that sick? What's the other two-piece I got, though? I guess this? Do I even have a two-piece? I kind of do, but it has Yam. Yeah, whatever. Wait, what am I doing? I can just go... Might as well say, what am I dumb? Am I stupid? Do I have stupid? Chad, I think I have stupid. I can't use that, though. That's too much credit. I'm a bit overcapped, but it is what it is. I don't think I can do anything about it. I guess I could use this. It's not even better, though. Just less overcap. I just have less crit rate now. But it's not actually better because I don't have more of the rest. I have less of the rest as well. Yeah, okay, let's just... 70 EM, yeah. This is actually really fucking good. It's such a good piece. Feels good, man. Okay. Alright, we've got that. Oh yeah, let me tell the editors. Yes, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Recorded Nahida AZ. POG. She should be on the new healing set, but it is what it is. Yeah, let's see how bad this is. All right. Let's go and see how bad this is just real quick. My child talent levels are not leveled, by the way. His normal attack is level, well, technically 2 because of the fucking increase, but like it's not actually leveled. It's level 1 basically.
Seize the skies. Teamwork is strength.
I don't have enough ER. No.
Let's light it up.
Yeah.
Let the world collide.
Make way.
Imagine with leveled talents. True! I think the low ER is the least of our worries. I think that's the biggest worry. There's some 4.5 banner leakers. Take a look. Chiori and Ito, and then Nevilet and Kaz. Oh my, they do not want to sell Chiori. Okay. Okay. I really hope the 4 stars are not bad, man. Dude, if the 4 stars are bad for the Nevilet Kazuha banner, that's so sad. You're pulling? I'm not. I already have them. You know it'll be bad. I don't want it to be bad, man. I don't want it to be bad. Dodge. Alright. I don't have the video and I'm skipping again. Am I thinking straight? I mean, are you struggling to clear Abyss? Because if not, who the fuck cares? If you don't like him, don't get him. How good are Nevilet teams without Farina? Honestly, I don't think Farina does that much for Nevilet teams. I don't think she does nothing either, like, don't get me wrong. I think that the main thing that it does is when you're using Jean, and you can get your 3rd stack from the infusion, then it does a lot. But when you're not, or like when you're not getting an additional stack from the animal unit, basically, I just don't really love it. I don't think it's useless, but I just don't think it does too much, honestly. Yeah, obviously it does a lot more if you're getting Nevilet C1, right? But in general, I just think he has a lot of teams that are good. And the Farina teams aren't that significantly ahead of the others. Part of that is just because Farina's animations are long, and Nevilet would rather be on field fucking bite and blasting than watching Farina be like, wee, You know? In which teams do you recommend using Nahida's burst? Oh, it is in general worth using. It's just specifically in double Hydro Hyper Bloom. It doesn't really matter whether or not you use it, and I prefer just using it for iframes. Yeah, like Farina's a much bigger, has much better synergy with other carries than she does with Neuvillette. Best Neuvillette team without Farina. Again, he has a lot of good teams. Like, it's gonna depend on the situation. The one I like the most is the Dea one, like the Dea Hyperbloom one. The one that's generally going to consistently clear the fastest is probably Neuvillette, Kazuha, Zhongli, Flex. And probably Xiangling as the last slot. It's time to start saving up, Zafkill. Good luck. So you said that team was jank? It is jank, but it's still good. I don't like playing it, but it's still good. No. You can use Fischl as well. Have you seen Jamie's last video replacing Beta with Neuvillette in International? Yeah, I mean, it's basically... It's a Neuvillette team that uses Kazuha Xiangling. It's pretty good for speedrunning. That really sounds like shit. Xiangling doesn't need to do damage in the team, so you just build her fully R and you're fine. I don't understand a lot about the GC Sim. Is this 93k DPS realistic? Probably not. But again, right, keep in mind, GC Sim isn't saying this team does 93k DPS when you play it. This is a sim in which it does 93k DPS. Which means it's probably micromanaged every single element of the rotation to make sure that everything lines up exactly frame perfect. And the reality is that when you can meet Hyperbloom damage ICD, and you generate a lot of Hyperblooms, which is the case in those Hyperbloom teams, right? Actually making sure that everything is frame perfect means that you don't lose damage from the Hyperbloom ICD, which in practice will always happen. So no, this is not a realistic damage you can expect. That doesn't mean that it's not good, though. I think that the only Hyperbloom GC Sim that really matters
Inactivity serves no purpose whatsoever.
is this one. This 50k DPS. And the rotation goes like this. Randomize a number between 1 and 4. If the number is 1, swap to Raiden and attack. And use her skill and then attack. If the number is 2, swap the Elan, use her skill if it's ready, use her burst if it's ready, then attack. If the number is 3, swap the Singto,
Stand before it.
use his skill if it's ready, use his burst if it's ready, and then attack. If the number is 4, swap to Nahida. Use her skill if it's ready, use her burst if it's ready, and then attack. Why do they both have 5? Because otherwise it can randomize not swapping into the unit and not getting any fucking particles. More 5s reduces the odds of that happening.
Inactivity serves no purpose whatsoever.
This is the only Hyperbloom sim that matters. Would you recommend to pull for C2 R1 Neuvillette so that I can play with Nahida C2 Neuvillette, Raiden, Zhongli until the end of time? Or is that a bad team? I'm kind of new to the game and don't like to swap characters. I'm gonna be honest with you. You don't need to do that for that team to be able to be played until the end of time, unironically. You can play that team till the end of time with C0 Neuvillette. If you care about Abyss, you're gonna want to have 2 good teams, not just 1. And so that's probably not as good as pulling for Neuvillette and then starting to work on a second good team. If you don't care about Abyss, then yeah, you can do that. It's not necessary, but yeah, it is definitely something you can do. I will warn you though, as a longtime player, the game became a lot less fun when I stopped struggling. There's just a lot less. The game just doesn't actually give you anything where you can actually use well-built characters, and it matters that they're well-built, right? And that's the main thing I'd be careful about if you're looking at maybe like vertically investing into some of your characters. I don't wish for you to end up in a situation where you fucking spend $200 or fucking spend $500 fucking fully maxing out a character, and then you realize, oh, I can't use this anywhere. This game's easy. And then you just quit. And minus 500, you know? That's not something I wish on anyone. My situation pretty much, yeah. How does Sak compare to Fab on Singto in both double Hydro teams with Yelan and solo Hydro? Basically, Fab is better in almost every team. I use Sak in every team because I only have one Fav, and there are too many sword characters that want Fav. Sak is still fine. If you're in the same situation as me, you can use Sack and not feel too bad about it. And there are even some teams where the Sack is actually better. But it's almost always Fav being better. In double Hydro, you don't even necessarily need Fav. There can be some teams, if your particle generation is good enough in the team overall, where you just go Aminoma or another attack weapon instead of an ER one. Like Finale of the Deep, or, I mean, fuck, any of the 5 stars as well. Do you know I'm 1 Fav short away from having 3 R5 Fav swords? Any askers? Did anyone in chat ask? Thank you for the Prime, Liker. Thank you for the timeout mods as well. I appreciate that. A guy told me Sack, so I've been running Sack. I'll give him my extra 5. Yeah, good idea. Like, Sack generates more particles for him, but 5 generates more energy for the team, and also, in basically every team where you use Syncso, the longest cooldown in the team is going to be his E, right? There's not that many abilities in the game that have cooldowns longer than 21 seconds. Which means that when you use Sack, most of the time, well, because you have to wait for the 21 seconds to be over, and then you use your first E, and then you use your next E, and that's when the cooldown starts. Using Sack effectively extends your rotation to 22 seconds instead of 21. If you EQ E, it extends it even more because the time between your first E and your second E is longer. Is Harbinger of Dawn a good option for Farina? No, because you can't maintain her HP high. But if you can, if you're playing like an on-field healer or something, then yeah, it's pretty good.
Body and mind.
Yeah, and that's true. There's also the situation where, if the rest of your cooldowns are, or rather, you can use Sack and just don't use the refresh, right? Like, don't use the second E. Just E and then Q and then swap out. To make it so that your E cooldown becomes 0. And so that instead of being gated by a 21-second cooldown from his E, you gated by a 20-second cooldown from his burst. That's another thing you can do, which can be nice, but yeah. But obviously, if you're doing that, then you're gonna need to build more ER. I'm downloading the StarRail pre-update and my stream has gradually been getting worse. We're on 160p now. That's funny. That do be funny. Oh, wait. Is QEE better than EEQ? QEE means that your E does more damage if you have C4. EEQ means that you get to catch the particles on him instead of someone else. It's up to you, really. Anyways, I think that's gonna be it. I had a nice chill. Honestly, maybe we do a bit of StarRail. No Chiori again? Tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll do Chiori. Clueless. Why is it doing that? What the? Oh, right, because I remember. Did you level up your QQ? Yes, I did. Yeah, let's change the game category to Star Rail. We're not gonna be on Star Rail for too long. Wait, I am already on Star Rail. Yo, thank you, mods. Okay, POG. Okay, so we have 160 power. We'll just spend that, and then that'll be that. You going for Black Swan? No, I'm gonna go for Sparkle. Cause QQ. Okay. Quantum Jail? I don't know. We could just be in the Erudition Jail instead. Because we need to level the talents. Or the traces, whatever. You know what I mean. Non E4. I'll get E4. I'll get E6 on the Sparkle banner. Okay? Trust. Trust. Trust me. Have you seen the 25-page thesis on Sparkle plus Bronia? No, I have not. And I don't want to be mean, but I don't think there's 25 pages worth of things to say on Sparkle plus Bronia.
Weird. How'd the Master Diviner figure out?
It is, yeah. It is truly,
Customers?
truly just not that deep, man. I'm sorry to say, but it just truly is not that deep.
Yin and yang. All things human.
How the thesis is just fan art? Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Hey, easy clap.
Enemy target ready for another. Let's be friends. 1,000 wonders. Fight is one. A quick divination. Together as
You know what? Let's just do this.
enemy data signet markers activated. Time for a good old counterattack. I see through you, converge and awaken.
Huge. Is this QQ not E4? I think it's not.
Welcome, customers. Enemy data signet markers activated. Time for a good old counterattack.
She's E6? Are you sure? Because I haven't progged the E4 once. Even after using 4 E's.
A quick divination.
Isn't that like 96%? You generate a skill point after normal attack? Oh. But isn't that like... If you kill the enemy, it doesn't use her E4. Oh, that's cringe. Oh, I forgot the E. That's fine.
Ready for another?
Why is that? That's dumb.
Enemy data Net markers activated. Time
That's
for
so
good
stupid. Why? And I guess they had to fucking nerf her because she was too good, true. But still, that's kind of sad.
creations.
Fine. Woo! Let's go! Okay, chat, is it time I start using my own? I don't have an actual set for her. I don't even have a fucking quantum orb. I have to use attack. Alright. I have normal attacks fully leveled. I think we're going for that next. Okay. Well. Okay. I don't know if it's gonna be good enough, honestly. We'll see.
Weird.
Should be fine.
Master Diviner figure out I'd be
I don't know. Thunder said QQ based, yes.
Ready for another? We came together.
Yeah, that is slightly worse damage. Ever so slightly, just a little bit.
Time for good old counter.
Ever so slightly, just a little bit.
Let's be friends. Enemy targets ready for another. Enemy data net markers activated. Time for good old counter.
You got QQE4 yet? Nope.
All things human. Creation.
No, I did not.
We have the upper hand. Welcome, customers. Yeah. A thousand wonders to fight as one.
Very nice.
Keep the moment.
Ah, fuck. I can't even buff her. Shit.
Another.
It's fine.
No matter yin and yang. Let's be friends.
I think your QQ broke? What do you mean? Why is she mute? Wait, what?
Time for good old counter.
What do you mean?
Welcome, customers. Yeah. A thousand
She's
wonders.
muted? Wait, what? Yeah, wait, she is. What the fuck? Wait a second. She is. Why is she muted? What the fuck?
Seize the moment.
What's going on?
It's ready for another. Net marker back.
What's that all about?
Counter. Gather as one.
But that's actually good because I don't have the skill points.
No matter.
I need to generate the skill points. Thank you for action delaying me. I appreciate it. Oh wait, no, I didn't need the skill points. Never mind. Pew.
Ready for another? A quick divination.
Wow.
Enemy data set. Net marker activated. Time for a good old counter. 1,000 wonders. Fight is fun. Came together.
Damn, not enough to kill. Almost though. That's not too bad. Considering how scuffed my build is right now, that's actually not too bad.
When it comes to Celestial Jade, it's all about synergy
Okay.
and luck.
She's unbugged, true.
Customers? Enemy data set. Net marker activated.
Maybe she just needed her ascension passive. Maybe that's it. Please. Fuck you.
I see through you. Gather as one.
Shit game.
And yang. All things human creations. 1,000 wonders to fight as one.
She's muted again. Wait, is she?
Ready for another?
Good take. What am I doing even? Like, this will never do anything.
Let's be friends.
I have too much speed on her, actually. Fuck. Wait, that's bad. Ah, shit. Now she goes before my fucking...
Time for a good old counter. Seize the moment. Yeah, we have the upper hand. Ready for another? A quick divination. Can we talk? Seize the moment.
Okay.
Converge and awaken. Welcome to the... Yeah! Yeah! Enemy data set. Net markers activated. Time for a good old counter. All things human creations.
Was the appeal of auto battlers like this on PC? There isn't.
I see through you. Let's be friends. 1,000 wonders. Fight is fun. Commencing support. Enemy data signet markers activated.
Like, the appeal of Star Rail isn't the actual game, it's the, like, process of building your characters. Like, it's not the gameplay of, it's not the fighting gameplay, it's the fucking gearing that is actually appealing.
Quick didn't. Ready for another?
That's better. For sure. For sure. I should have unlocked that, actually. Well, it's fine. Is Yu good? Yeah. She's pretty good. She's not very good at E2, though, which is what mine is at. But that's okay. Alright, we've spent our power. That's it. That's that. Alright, thank you all for dropping by today. I hope you had a nice time. Oh. We can raid Redness.
Album heart sticker. Cute. Booty booty. Is there another variety game you guys like recently that we can play?
I want you to go say hi, smile.
Okay, wait.
Loot check.
You guys are on. Bye bye.